Hey everyone, Jim Coventry from RotoWire here, getting ready for the Week 11 Start Sit live stream. I'll probably open up the Instagram in a few minutes. I'm starting a couple minutes early. Got some questions. So let's get rolling here. All right, got Eric. What's up, Eric? All right, in tight end premium league, starting 2 tight ends decimated by injuries. Oh man, Jackson. Well, honestly, what Greg Cosell even said, and is that Grant Calcaterra and Jack Stoll are probably the top 2 tight ends. So of those two, Calcaterra is probably the one that you would want to go with. Although Greg Cosell, again, he's right there in Philly, and I know he works for NFL Films and all that good stuff. And anyway, he thinks that Jack Stoll will probably see more targets than Calcaterra. Calcaterra's like a 6th-round pick. They think it might take him a little time to get acclimated. So of those right now, it would seem like Stoll has the most opportunity. But I don't know how much Jackson is actually going to see the field. And that's, again, for somebody who's close to the situation. All right. Dark throw tight end. Don't know if Juwan Johnson's available. Probably it sounds a tight end premium. Probably not. I know Jelani Woods is out for the Colts. So if either of the other Colts tight ends are available, it's possibly get a little bit of love there. And obviously Trey McBride's probably taken from Arizona as he's taking over for Zach Ertz. Yeah, probably not a whole lot there. I don't think anyone looking at the teams, don't see anybody else that might be worth a flyer. Dev, Pittman, Gabe Davis, Tony, Deontay Foreman, Pacheco, 2 receivers, and a flex. Well, I like that Gabe Davis is playing indoors now because that fast track really helps their passing game. They have a great match. One of the corners from Greg Newsome is out for Cleveland, so that makes his matchup even better. I don't like Foreman's matchup this week. I love Foreman as a player. Love him most weeks. I think that with Roquan Smith now, Baltimore's a little tougher against the run. Pittman's going to get his targets, so that's important. Deontay has just kind of been a lemon right now, and I just don't see much upside with him at all. And Pacheco, again, even in his big week last week, he had, 80 yards, and that was it. No touchdowns, doesn't get red zone love, doesn't get targets. So I would probably use Tony as, you need a running back out of that? No, it doesn't look like you do. So I would just go with the first 3 you listed. Pittman, Gabe Davis, and Tony. Delroy, flex spot, half PPR, Pacheco, Kmet, Peoples-Jones. Peoples-Jones has at least 50 yards in 6 straight games, 70 yards in 5 of those 6 games. So he is a high floor play. He hasn't found the end zone all year. So he's your safe play. Kmet has 5 touchdowns on 11 catches over the last 3 weeks. And so that has been kind of interesting, but he is going to be open in the red zone a lot because defense is worried about Justin Fields. So I think Kmet's your boom bust guy. I think Peoples-Jones's floor is higher than Pacheco's because he doesn't get targets. All right, Delroy. Zeke or Michael Carter. So I just read that Zeke is going to see less work than usual because he's apparently not 100%. So I think for that reason, Carter's going to see targets. They dump to the running back a lot. So I think that was how I would frame that one out. I think they both have similar floors, but if Zeke's going to see less work than usual, then I don't know that his ceiling is what it typically is. All right, John, you need 2 in a standard league. Higgins, Gabe Davis, Ayuk, or Olave. Yeah, Olave hasn't been getting done, and there's a chance. I don't know. You never know how a coach is going to do it, but he's the only receiving threat to worry about. And I wonder if they're just going to – the Rams are going to take Ramsey and just put him on him and say goodnight. And that could be the case. Ayuk has a great matchup, and actually Arizona's down another corner. Higgins and Gabe Davis. So Ayuk to me is in. He gets the 80 yards like 3 straight weeks, probably another week. And the next one is going to be tough because we're looking at Gabe. I think Gabe Davis in the fast track in the Dome in Detroit because that's where they move the game to. I think it's a great opportunity for him in a very easy matchup. I don't see any issues there. Cleveland is down a cornerback. I mentioned this earlier in the show. They're down. I keep forgetting his name. Greg Newsome. And Higgins is tough because Pittsburgh's going to get pressure. They see him. I don't even want to say one is a better floor than the other because Higgins could get slowed down in this matchup. Love Higgins' talent, but I would probably just go with Gabe Davis in a higher scoring game, and I'd probably go with Ayuk there. Kavon, tight end. Kmet, Njoku, Freiermuth. Freiermuth probably has the highest floor. I'm worried about Njoku. He's coming back from the injury. I don't know that he's 100%. He come back very quickly from a high ankle sprain. So I really want to see him play before trusting him over others. Freiermuth's your safe option. Kmet's your boom bust because of his red zone usage recently. And it's been very real, and it may continue. So we'll look at that. I got to turn on some Instagram here. Let's see if we got people from there as well. All right. So see what we got next. MSA, good morning. Josh Allen, 279 passing yards, Diggs, 95.5 receiving yards. I do think the Cleveland and Buffalo game is pretty high scoring. I know they could run all day, but I don't know that they're going to. They don't like to run, and they want to throw. It is a very, very good matchup for them. So I would be inclined to say over on both. Again, what I expect to be a high scoring game. Now, the one caveat, I want you to think about this. Buffalo didn't get out of Buffalo until about 4 Eastern yesterday, and they had a big problem leaving. So they could be discombobulated. I'd be more likely to lay off it because I don't know what I'm getting. Athletes and out of their routine, that's a rough one. Instagram question, Coach Amador, you need a quarterback help, Heineke or Pickett? Yeah, Pickett, they're getting some people back in Cincinnati on defense. That worries me. Now they're not getting Chidobe Awuzie back, which helps, but they're going to get some pressure on Pickett. And I think it's a lower scoring game. Heineke at the end of the day, they're playing the Texans. You can run all day on the Texans. But there's probably some play action there. So that's probably the route I look. Let me take another Insta question here. Zeke, I got to scroll down here. Let me see if I missed some here. All right. So I probably go there. And then Christopher Fields has Zeke or Pollard. Well, apparently I just read a report that Zeke's going to get less work than Pollard did because Pollard isn't quite 100%. So I think right now we're going to stay with Pollard because if he's getting more work, he's been more explosive anyway. Kavan, Debo or Garrett Wilson? Debo hasn't been getting work, right? I mean, he's just getting like 10 touches a game. But here's the problem with Garrett Wilson. He has 2 great games in a row, right? Like 92 and 115 yards. But now Bill Belichick saw them 3 weeks ago. And you guess he's going to have a game plan, and he's not going to want Garrett Wilson, having a big game. So my guess is he eliminates Garrett Wilson. Debo, we don't know what the touch configuration. They're playing Arizona, and this game's in Mexico City. The elevation is way higher than Denver's elevation, so I could see defenses gassing. So I'd probably say Debo might be able to get a big play or two against a tired defense that's down. So they're down another corner too. So that helps too. B. Ali, Palmer or C. Jefferson? C. Jefferson. You mean Van Jefferson? You have to put that one back. I don't know who C. Jefferson. Maybe I'm screwed up, but I don't know who C. Jefferson is. Mitch, good morning. Glad you're here. PPR, tight end premium, need 2. Michael Carter, Melvin Gordon, Foster Moreau. You're already starting Chubb, Patterson, and Mark Andrews. So you're in good shape there. The screen game is really big with the Jets right now because they want to get Zach Wilson the ball out of his hands. They don't trust him to make reads and decisions. So Michael Carter, now I know that New England's probably going to try to scheme up to take that away, but you can't completely take away a screen game. And so I do think that he'll probably get some running success too. So I do like Michael Carter a good deal. Melvin Gordon's been like 3 yards a carry. The matchup's not bad, but I just wondered, already a 3-man committee there. So a little nervous on him. Moreau, the targets just aren't consistently there, but you're tight end premium. So I would honestly go Carter first, and I'd go Moreau second. I'd leave Gordon out of this. The touchdown possibilities haven't really been there much. The scoring hasn't been there. Moreau could get something going because he's getting enough targets and tight end premium to give you that boost. Randy, Kyler Murray, a quarterback. Ryan, Heineke, Brissett, Pickett, Wilson, Stafford, Colt McCoy available. Here's what I would probably do. I'd make it easy. I would just take Colt McCoy, and then you got your decision made when the game comes up. I do think that although San Francisco has a significant advantage in this game, Arizona's down 3 offensive linemen, but the game's played at mega altitude in Mexico City. So in the second half, there's going to be garbage time. Whichever quarterback is playing for Arizona probably uses that garbage time and can probably get you some points. Matt Ryan has some possibility, but he can implode at any time. I think if you could have, Matt Ryan is the best of those plays, but again, he always has implosion possibility, and we worry about that. But this matchup is one of the short intermediate game, Paris Campbell, but I think they're going to run with Jonathan Taylor. So I'm going to go McCoy or Murray and then make the pivot game time tomorrow. That's what I would do. An instant question here. Papi Gama, running back, Zeke or Pacheco? Yeah, that's a good one. Again, just reading the report that Zeke's going to get less work than usual, that worries me. It's telling me he's not 100%. Pacheco in his big game had 12 carries for 82 yards, and it was one long run that got him there. So, it's tough to project him with touchdowns or anything, but I do think there's risk with Zeke right now. If Zeke's less than 100%, he wasn't great less than 100%. So that's what I worry about. And then we got a prop question. My props for this week are... These are all over. Dak Prescott over to passing yardage. Same game, Dalvin Cook over to rushing yardage. And then in the Eagles and Indy game, I've got A.J. Brown and Jonathan Taylor over the rush yards. I do have an explanation for those at Jim Coventry NFL on Twitter. I did a thread yesterday. You could read all the whys. And if you like the rationale, bet them. If you don't like the rationale, lay off them. But I'd give a rationale. Just find that on my Twitter page. Foxborough News need a flex for a 16-man half PPR. Kyron Williams, Brian Robinson, Paris Campbell, or CEH. You're in a good spot. As much as I love Kyron Williams, I can't put him in this group of players. And CEH was down to like 5 snaps last week. His playtime usage has gone down the toilet in the last 3 weeks. So it goes between Robinson and Campbell. So Robinson, look, they're playing Houston. Houston can't stop anybody on the ground. And so Robinson is a very safe play with touchdown upside. Campbell gets 9 to 12 targets a week with Matt Ryan, who's obviously the quarterback now, and Eagles are missing a slot corner, Avonte Maddox, so it's a really good matchup for Campbell. So it's between those two, and it's super even because Houston is so bad against the run, and since Washington probably doesn't fall behind in game script, stays with them, I would be inclined to go Brian Robinson, but if you have a gut feel on Paris Campbell, it's an equal call, so I would look either way on that. All right, next question. Carr or Matt Ryan? So I wouldn't pick up Mills or Heineke here. Carr has a really bad matchup, those outside corners, and they get pressure in Denver. Matt Ryan, again, I mentioned it a couple seconds ago, he has real downside every week because the pressure gets to him. But, it's one of those games where if Jonathan Taylor's running, takes a little pressure off of him, and he can be successful in the middle of the field. And that's where Matt Ryan is really good throwing the ball. So I might be inclined to lean Matt Ryan 55 to 45% over Carr. I don't think there's a compelling enough case. I think Heineke, they're going to run the ball all day. He's not going to throw much. And then Mills is not a bad play, but the Washington Commanders got a big pass rush, and he could be under siege, and that worries me. So, I think Mills fits in with Carr and Ryan, but at least Ryan has a little more reliable weapons, so I might lean that. It's so close. If you had a gut feel, go with that. So, game more props, and we got Fishtail. Bench one, Pickens, Robinson, or I'm assuming you meaning Marquise Brown. I'm assuming you mean Allen Robinson, and I don't know if you don't. Pickens is very risky because Kenny Pickett's just not good right now, and defenses can easily put him under pressure. Allen Robinson, if it's Brian Robinson, he's a great play. Allen Robinson, I think, is in for a breakout here because I think they're going to have to get him the ball and move him in the slot. My guess is it's definitely a theory on my point. If it's Marquise Brown, I don't know for sure he'll be activated. It's a Monday night game, so therefore there's a lot of risk. So if it's Allen or Brian Robinson, I would go with either of those right now, unless there's full word that Marquise Brown is a full go, in which case I would go with him. All right, game script between the Chiefs and the Chargers. Mahomes, 300 yards. So the big deal in this game is how healthy are Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. There were not glowing reports. It wasn't like they're full goes ready to go. So I'm very concerned about that. My own personal narrative is that Mike Williams doesn't run a lot of hard cutting routes. They'll use him on a lot of the straight routes, downfield routes. And my guess is the ankle may not be as much of a problem for those. So I think he may be closer than usual. Keenan Allen on the hamstring, his whole game is short area quickness and lateral agility, and I do worry about that. But if they put him on the field, we could get a setback. He could be fine. So it's such a tough call here. And if Andy Reid was ever compelled to run the ball, you could run all day on the Chargers. I don't know that Andy Reid's compelled to do that, so we feel kind of good there. Mahomes has been a beast lately, and this is a divisional matchup, though. So in these divisional matchups, they know the tendencies, and you can slow things down a bit. So I would say, and this is a low percentage, 55% of it, Mahomes goes over, but it's close. It could go either way. Base's recent hot streak, but he's missing Juju. He's missing Mecole Hardman. Now he gets Tony, which is fine. It's 55% over because he's been red hot, but the divisional matchup scares me. I would not bet it. I would lay off it. Herbert, it's a tough one too, because ultimately it all depends on the health of his receivers. I would not bet that one. I would lay off that as well. But they're going to have to score points. So if you're going to bet one, they're going to have to throw to keep up. And Eckler can get receiving work. So I would say more on that. But it's a lot of uncertainty in that game. Alley, you need one. Dalton, Brissett, Mac Jones, Wilson, or Stafford. Oh, man, yeah, you're right. Now, here's, you know what? I'm going to tell you Stafford, because two defensive ends, best pass rushers for New Orleans, are out. Their weak side linebacker, Pete Warner's out. Marshawn Ladd, there are 4 starters out. I know there's no Cooper Kupp, but I think that they may not be able to generate any pressure, and therefore the line of the Rams, which is decimated, might not be overwhelmed. Backups against backups. So I think you could see a downfield shot to Van Jefferson. I think we could see Allen Robinson in the slot. So of those players, I think Dalton could get benched in game. That's why I'm not recommending him. The talk's been like he's getting in trouble with his job. So, and Russell Wilson, hard to trust him right now. They are playing the Raiders. Not a bad. I think Wilson may have a stable 15-point floor, the best floor of them. I think Stafford has a little more upside than Wilson. So it'd be either Wilson, if you want to bank some points, would be good. But yeah, Stafford could implode. So I would say Wilson for safe. Stafford, if you want to risk floor for a little bit of ceiling. I mean, Wilson probably is the safest. It probably would be the case here. Instant question, Francisco, Josh Palmer, Marquise Brown. You know what? At this point, Marquise Brown, I don't know for sure they're activating him. And so if we knew he was a full go, and if you hear he's a full go, then it's Marquise Brown. But otherwise, we got to go with Josh Palmer. But let me just look and see if there's any recent news on him. I'll quickly check this on the RotoWire news site and just see what we come up with. Because, again, that Marquise Brown injury is very important to a lot of people. He mixed in the individual drills on Thursday, and that was like the last report on him. So based on that, I don't think that he's going to be a full go here. So I got to say Josh Palmer, just because you can't take a zero. He may not be active. We don't know for sure that he will be. And then Prince Edwards, he's going to play. I think, yeah, good. I just answered that one. It worked out real well. And then PNLB wants to know Tony or Boyd. So with Juju out and with Mecole Hardman on IR, I mean, I think Tony's going to continue to see an escalation in his role. Now, Boyd is real boom bust, because we know when the middle of the field gets unattended by defenses, he can completely shred them. Pittsburgh's a divisional opponent. Now, he's gotten to them before, but the fact with no Jamar Chase, it's less to worry about. And Minkah Fitzpatrick in the middle of the field is there, which that kind of puts a little damper on that part of the field as well. I would be inclined to say Tony here, but just you never know with Boyd. Boyd could get you 2 catches for 20 yards. He can get 6 catches for 130 and 2 scores. And we never know when that 2 touchdown game's coming. And it's never based on opponent. It's just based on, weird game flow. So Boyd would be your boom bust because he has major boom, but there is a lot of downside. But I think Tony gets enough targets to be a solid high floor play with some ceiling. And then Fishtail wants to know bench 1. James Robinson, Pickens, or Marquise. Again, because of only Marquise Brown being in individual drills as of Thursday, that scares me. And if he gets deactivated, taking a zero is a tough one. Let's see what else we got here. And Francisco, Damian Harris, or Warren. It just came out from the Pittsburgh organization that we're going to see Najee Harris get more work. They liked what they saw in the last game when he had 99 yards. So right now, I would assume Damian Harris is back to a reasonable workload, which is normally double-digit carries. And he is a factor in the red zone when they are in there. They like using him at the goal line, even though Stevenson's good there as well. So I would be inclined, based on the report about Warren, to go with Damian Harris. Patrick wants to know Curtis Samuel, Pickens, Gallup, Van Jefferson, pick 2 for PPR. So look, Curtis Samuel is going to get his targets, and I think he could be using the run game today, because we know that Houston can't stop the run, and Samuel has been used a little bit in the run game recently, and he could get a big run against them. But he's going to get targets as well. So we like him because I think he has a better floor than all of those guys. And his ceiling isn't terrible, but it's not great. But his floor makes him better. Pickens is worrisome because his quarterback is just not good. Gallup hasn't been getting done, but the matchup is beautiful. I think for your second play, I think Gallup has the best floor of those 3 for your matchup there, because again, Cam Dantzler's out there really in trouble at cornerback, and I do think Dallas comes in against a run-stopping Vikings defense. I think they come out pass heavy, and it looks good. Now, if you want the boom bust for that second receiver, it's Van Jefferson, because the top 2 pass rushers for the Saints are out. They're down a cornerback. This is the week they could actually have time to throw something downfield. So, again, Samuel for sure, Gallup for floor, and Van Jefferson boom bust. And Harlem, half PPR, Brian Robinson or Kenyon Drake. Yeah, so The Texans are so bad against the run, and Washington blocks it up pretty good. And I assume that's their game plan going in. So I'm going to say that Brian Robinson here, the Panthers are a top 10 run defense. Now, the Ravens can mitigate it because they block it up really well on the offensive line. But ultimately, Brian Robinson should have this phenomenal matchup. And I think we lean into that because we don't normally see big runs from Brian Robinson, but that's what the Texans give up. So I would lean there. It's like 60% to 40%. I can understand the path for Drake. Just remember, Drake's a guy that had 11 carries for 5 yards a few weeks ago before he ran into a good situation. So another Insta questions here. Quarterbacks, Fields, Herbert, or Burrow? Fields for sure because of the running. Herbert and Burrow. So Burrow's in a divisional matchup here. Pittsburgh was in their backfield more than I said. TJ Watt was in their backfield more than Joe Mixon in that first matchup. That scares me. I tend to think Herbert is safer than Burrow, and I think they have similar upside. So I go Fields and Herbert here. I just had divisional matchups tough. All right, Cola. You got Cortland Sutton, Dante Foreman, Darnell Mooney, Darius Slayton, top 2. So Sutton they're without Judy. And they're without KJ Hamler. And the Raiders are still without Nate Hobbs, their best cornerback. I would assume Cortland Sutton gets 10-plus targets here. This is a good spot for him. He had a run of bad matchups where he wasn't doing well. So I think that we like Cortland Sutton here. Foreman is a bad matchup. Baltimore is middling against run, but they had a Roquan Smith. So those middling numbers get changed now. He changes that equation for the run defense. And I think that Baltimore is not worried about Baker Mayfield. So I think they're going to look to stop the run. And I think they're successful. Mooney, I like a lot here because the matchup against Atlanta is phenomenal. And with Justin Fields moving, it's like there's so many problems in the back end of the defense because of that. Now, Slayton has been hot as well. Right. And so we like Slayton, we like Mooney. Ultimately, we can't trust the Giants. The Giants could come in and run the ball. We had a broken play last week that really helped us elevate Darius Slayton. So that helped him out. In terms of the matchup, I mean, the Lions, if the Giants get a lead, they might just run. They might not have to throw. And I know the Bears are probably in a shootout with Atlanta. So that's why I'm going to tend to go with Mooney in that spot. If you have a gut feel on that second one, go with it. Nurse Alex C. You need help with this? It's a 1 running back, 2 tight wide receivers, 1 flex. CeeDee Lamb, Boyd, Keenan Allen, Kenyon Drake, Dalvin Cook, Gabe Davis. All right, no, so Dallas is a great team to run against. So Dalvin Cook should be a great play. And the Vikings are easy to pass against, and they're down a top corner and are down a pass rusher and maybe a second with game time decision. So CD is a second player. So you need 1 more receiver. So you see now at this point, because that Buffalo game was moved indoors, playing at an indoor fast track into Detroit's home stadium, even though between Cleveland and Buffalo, I like Gabe Davis there. Tyler Boyd is always really boom bust, but I think Boyd's floor is lower than Gabe Davis's, where they both have big ceiling. And Kenyon Drake, again, it's always risky because they are playing a top 9 run defense. So that's the route I'm going to go on that one. All right, Martine. Sutton, Sander, need 1. Olave or Sutton. So here's my concern, and I don't know what they're going to do. The Rams could decide, you know what? The Saints have 1 weapon to worry about in the passing game. It's Chris Olave. So let's just this week say Jalen Ramsey, eliminate him. And he could. And I don't know if they'll do it. But if they were smart coaching, you're not worried about their other guys, that's for sure. Whereas Cortland Sutton, the Raiders are now Nate Hobbs still. The other 2 receivers are out, KJ Hamler and Jerry Jeudy. So my guess is the situation is better for Sutton. So probability standpoint, Sutton would be your better play, in my opinion. And Randy, expectations for Tyree Jackson. Right now, none. Greg Cosell talked up this situation in Philly, and he said that basically Jack Stoll is going to be their top tight end, and Calcaterra is a guy they like. He's a 6th-round pick. He'll be in. They block a lot of 2 tight end plays. They're not going to be running 3 tight end sets, and they're not replacing Goddard's role. None of these guys are Dallas Goedert. So we like Tyree Jackson's athleticism. We think he could be a really good receiver. But if Greg Cosell, he's like locked in with Philly. He's in that area. He knows what's going on there. And if he says he didn't even bring up Tyree Jackson's name, then to me, we're not bringing it up either. All right. Yeah, Greg Cosell's like the man. Got one here, Dulcich or Komet. Yeah, that's a tough one because Dulcich could see increased target volume with Judy and KJ Hamler out, and a game that should have some scoring to it. Now, Komet has that touchdown upside, 5 touchdowns in his last 3 games, and it's real because when they get in the red zone and the field starts moving, everybody's got to cinch up, and he sits wide open. So I think Komet, believe it or not, is safer than Dulcich. And I don't know that Dulcich has a higher ceiling. So based on what, and I know his 5 touchdowns come on 11 catches, but the way the offense is running, this is the way it was supposed to be in the preseason. When I predicted how the Bears offense would run, this is exactly what it was. Komet would be open because of the mobile quarterback. I'm going to say Komet. He's been on fire, and we roll with it. Dulcich had 2 broken coverages that led to his 2 big plays. Otherwise, it hasn't been all that great. Kevon, Paris Campbell's a great matchup. Slot quarterback Avonte Maddox is out. And that's where there's some vulnerability for Philly, the middle of the field, especially with him out. And that's where Campbell runs in the slot 80% of the time. And 9 to 12 targets in every game of Matt Ryan. No reason to think it's any different, right? And all right, let's see. You got another question here on Insta, Moreau or Dulcich. Now here I'm going to go Dulcich. Moreau's targets are always like, it's weird because they need him, but they don't always use him. Dulcich is going to run a lot more routes than Moreau, I think. And I do think the matchup is more favorable for Dulcich. And in this one, I'm going to go with Dulcich because at the end of the day, Moreau has been used in the red zone, but he's not a focal point there. So I think that takes away, like when you mentioned the other person had Komet with him, that's different. I'm going to go with Dulcich there. And same question from somebody else. All right, good. I answered for 2 people. Got to love that. All right, let's see what we got here. Nico Collins or Josh Palmer, Marquise Brown. Marquise Brown ran individual drills on Thursday. That's the last update that RotoWire gave. So right now I'm going to say we can't trust a Monday night Marquise Brown. Nico Collins has a very good matchup against Washington. Washington's good against the run. They struggle against the pass. Nico Collins has been winning 50-50 balls. He's getting targets. Josh Palmer now slots in as the number 3, whereas Collins, and I know it's a bad offense, but he's going to be like a 1A. So I'm going to go with Collins here on volume. And Palmer hasn't been real efficient with his opportunities. So again, if Keenan is back, Mike Williams is back, and then we got Eckler, I think Palmer could get like phased out here a bit. All right, Matrix, Kirk Cousins or Jimmy G. I like Jimmy G here. They're going to run, they're going to pass, but Byron Murphy, the corner for Arizona, is out. He's their best remaining corner. Their corners are awful, and so that's going to be a great opportunity. Jimmy Garoppolo might have to throw 20 passes, and he might be able to click here. So I do think Jimmy Garoppolo is a good play. Kirk Cousins worries me. Dallas, I explained that on the XM show this morning, but basically, Micah Parsons was misused last week because Anthony Barr was hurt, their other linebacker, and they moved Micah Parsons away from his spot, and he wasn't used to rush the passer but 11 times, and it was a big mistake. And then Dallas also lost a corner, Anthony Brown, in game. He's back this week. Kirk Cousins is a high-profile game, and we always own these high-profile games. He has a tendency to drift away. But this said, Cousins is boom bust. He could blow up. He could implode. So you know this if you start him, you got the chance for the big game. He could do it, but he also could implode. Jimmy G, I think, has a very, very strong floor and a reasonable ceiling. I like him because it's going to be a more stable matchup. But if you need a huge game out of your quarterback, I think Cousins does have that ability. All right, let's see. We got Lisa here. Let's see what you got here. Good morning to you as well. You got 2 questions. Chark or Drake London? I know. Chark coming back from the injury. We don't really know what to expect right now. And the Giants have had good numbers against receivers, but Aaron Robinson, their cornerback, has been out, and so he remains out there. And then Drake London, we know the problem. He hasn't hit 40 yards since week 3. And he did score last week, which definitely helped. They are playing the Bears, which is a favorable matchup. I think both teams, the Bears and the Falcons, have a lot of success on the ground, and both teams want to run. I don't know how motivated Atlanta will be to have to pass the ball, because if they can run, they will run. Whereas with Chark coming off a long layoff, we don't know what kind of shape he's in. We don't know if he's ready to get back to a typical role. And I think this is the decider for me. They're playing in New York. I don't like Jared Goff in a cold venue. Over the years when I've seen him playing cold venues, he doesn't seem to be the same quarterback as when he's playing indoors or in warm weather. So Drake London at least will get some targets. If they get in the red zone, he could be used there. I'm going to say Drake London based on that. All right. Martine, standard, need 1. Sutton, I think I answered that one already. All right. Dev, Olave, Gabe Davis, Mike Williams. So I don't know that Mike Williams is 100% yet. So Gabe Davis is in for sure. Mike Williams is going to be your boom bust because he could be okay. They could get him the ball downfield. Olave is going to be safer. Even if they decide they're going to put Jalen Ramsey on him, Olave would be able to get at least 4 catches for 40 yards, I would think. Whereas if Mike Williams' ankle isn't right, or if he's more of a decoy, which he could be, I think Mike Williams has more upside, but he has downside because we don't know what his ankle is like. That's how I'd frame that one. I got some more Insta questions. Nurse Alex. I answered that one already. Let's see. Larry, the male guy, 2 PPR quarterbacks. Herbert, Burrow, or Fields. Somebody else had that same question. So it was Fields and Herbert for that one. Burrow's in a divisional matchup against Pittsburgh, and that the pass rush could be problematic for him. And they got, of course, no Jamar Chase. Matrix, half pie PPR, 0.5 PPR. Pittman or George Pickens? I got to go with Pittman here. Pittman normally gets around 9 targets of Matt Ryan, and I know the cornerback matchup isn't great, but he runs a lot of underneath in-breakers. Those kind of mitigate coverage. He's a big-bodied receiver, and he could pile up the catches. Pickens has just worried me because they have to be gadgety with him because their quarterback is not an NFL quarterback. Kenny Pickens, not an NFL caliber starting quarterback. And so I'm going to say Pittman because the targets will be there, and Matt Ryan will get him to him, and I just think there's a floor there with those. All right, Lauren, Jim Cooperman, you got a PPR, need to start 2 and a flex. Ayuk, Pittman, Devontae Smith, Landry, Warren, and Mitchell. So Warren apparently isn't getting a lot of work today per the coaching staff of Pittsburgh. They're going to go with Najee Harris after the 99-yard game last week. Jarvis Landry I just think he's an aging receiver. He did well in his first game or two, still coming back from injury. Don't really want to trust him, and the quarterback situation is very much in flux there. And so we're going to go Ayuk and Pittman for sure based on volume, and Ayuk is a great matchup. For the last one, Devontae Smith and Mitchell. Mitchell, this game's in Mexico City, high elevation. The defense can be tired. I think Mitchell is good for 60 yards. I think he's your floor play. I don't know how much of a ceiling he has. I think Devontae Smith against Indy could have a big game, but he also could do that 2 for 20 thing he does a lot. So Mitchell is your safe floor play for a decent amount of points. But if you need some more pop out of that position, then you take that shot with Devontae Smith. See if I have another Insta question here. Moreau or Dulcich, I answered that one already. Tough ones. I got that. Dulcich or Komet, I answered that one. I said if it's a different person looking at it. I went Komet on that one because of the red zone usage. And Lisa, Donovan Peoples-Jones or Paris Campbell. That's a tough one. Peoples-Jones, it's been 70 yards in 5 of the last 6 games, and his only game he didn't, it was a 50. His floor is beautiful. But Paris Campbell has been around the same yardage, and he scored in the last 2 games, and he's that perfect slot receiver for Matt Ryan, who wants to use the middle of the field and get rid of the ball. But Peoples-Jones, they're playing Buffalo. Now, Buffalo's all kinds of dinged up in the secondary, but they play a really good zone, and they do pressure really well, and that can be a tough one for Jacoby Brissett. I'm going to say both are great plays, but I'm going to lean Paris Campbell because I think with slot corner Avonte Maddox out for Philadelphia, that gives him an advantage that Peoples-Jones doesn't have here. As always, you got a gut feel, go with it. Brian Pope, bench 1. Davis, Sutton, Tony. I'm trying to think which Davis you mean. Corey Davis is out. I think there's no Davis I'm missing. Tony or Rondale Moore. So if it's Corey Davis, he's out. He's inactive. If it's a different Davis, just put a message down with the Bob, and I'll set you up on it, Brian. Mo Green, Pickens or DPJ. Now, as I just said, DPJ and Samuel was one thing. On the other hand here, DPJ, that floor is going to serve you well here. I don't know how much upside Pickens has, and it's not a great matchup. I know Chidobe Awuzie is out for Cincinnati. He's their best corner, but nonetheless, Kenny Pickett's just not getting things done, and the Bengals will get some pressure on him in this game. So I think Donovan Peoples-Jones has such a high floor. I think that Pickens having such a low floor, I don't know what a ceiling is. And they need to do some gadget plays to get him going. So right now, I would probably lean DPJ fairly easily just because he's been so consistent for over a month and a half. Answer that one already. You guys keep spamming the question. RotoWire not login. Help me. Sorry, man. I'll go to Roto. I don't know how to help you on here, but if you're here, I don't know what to tell you. Old school music. Let's see. All right. Lisa, Dulcich or Pitts? Oh, man. Dulcich has a safer floor. But Pitts is getting targets, right? He got like 7 to 9 targets. I think it's like 3 or 4 straight games. The Bears are terrible defensively, but Dulcich is going to see some work. Now, remember, Dulcich only has 3, 4, or 5 targets in 3 of his 4 games. He had the 9 target game, but his targets aren't really high, and there were 2 busted coverages that got him his yardage. The biggest one was that huge touchdown when in the Chargers game when J.C. Jackson fell down, or not even fell down, he just blew coverage. And so, that said, we don't really know if teams aren't busting coverage what Dulcich is going to be, but they're down 2 receivers, so he'll get targets. I'm going to say Pitts is going to be the play here because, look, eventually if he keeps seeing these targets, Mariota's got to get somewhat close to him. So, because I think Dulcich is a higher floor, though. So if you need like a 7-point floor, Dulcich is your guy. Pitts could get you 2 or 15. So if you want the upside play, then you go with Pitts. But Dulcich is your floor play. He's going to get targets. I think today he gets 7 or 8 targets because of those receivers missing. Steve, PPR, need a dart throw bye week. Let's see. Moreau, Wandale, Kendall Hinton, Justin Watson, and running back Gus or McKinnon. Gus is not, to my knowledge, Gus isn't supposed to play unless he does something crazy in pregame workout. So McKinnon's going to be it. If so, right now, if Gus is active, you're playing him, but that's coming out in a couple minutes. Maybe it's out already, but I should move this over to my other screen here and see if I can do the inactives for you guys as they come up. See if anything's out here. Not quite yet. We'll get inactives pretty soon here. All right. So, but I'll say that now. Your other one. Wandale is apparently iffy with his health as well, so that kind of worries us a little bit. Moreau should have at least 3 to 4 targets, which helps. Kendall Hinton is interesting, but I don't know how they used him last week. I think they got like 9 targets last week. Not a good receiver, but if you're getting targets, that's great. So what I would probably say here is, though, I would say that Moreau probably has the best floor of this group, and I would probably go with that. He's going to get enough targets to do something. And he should get you 30 to 40 yards with an upside for a little bit more. The other guys all have too low a floor for me, so I would kind of steer away from those. All right, let's see. We got more Insta questions. Dotson or Sutton? You know what? I think Sutton gets double-digit targets here with Judy out, with Hamler out, and the Raiders are still without their corner, Nate Hobbs. Sanders or Pickens in the flex? Again, I'm just finding it so hard to trust Pickens. They got gimmicky, and they were able to get him some stuff like a run, and I think he threw a ball too. But Kenny Pickett just isn't getting it done. I'm going to go with Sanders fairly easily for the floor. All right, let's see what we got here next. Uncle Santini, Keenan Allen or Sutton, PPR. So because Sutton, again, he had a stretch of 3 rough games where he had like 3 catches for 25 yards. I think it was terrible in a 3-week span. He was back last week, which was good. And the Raiders matchup is not scary at all. Again, Nate Hobbs is out, and Keenan Allen still worries me. I think, we're banking. They haven't said he's fully healthy. He's a full go. It's literally like down to the minute on him. So with him not being 100%, last time he played, he got pulled out of the game because his hamstring blew up on him. So I'm going to say Sutton because I just don't like that risk of Keenan Allen not having these glowing reports of he's good to go. It's not that way right now. Old school music wants to know, Brian Robinson. Well, Hopkins is fine. Hopkins is going to play. He was on the injury report. It was maintenance. So Hopkins, Brian Robinson is a great place because they're playing Houston, but DeAndre Hopkins is DeAndre Hopkins. Whether it's doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Colt McCoy, he's fine. So we're going to go with Hopkins. Hopkins will be fine here. Fam first, Foreman or Gibson? Foreman is a tougher matchup. Top 10 run, middling run defense, but Baltimore is Roquan Smith. You can't take those middling numbers anymore. We can't look at him. He's changed the face of their run defense. And Baker Mayfield's not going to make them slant to defending the pass. They're going to load up to stop the run and make Baker Mayfield be in 3rd and long and 2nd and long. So as much as I love Foreman, he's an outstanding football player, but I don't like him. Gibson has a great matchup against Houston. Even in split workload, he could get 100 yards here because Houston can't stop anybody. So I'm going to go with Gibson there. Normally wouldn't do that, but Gibson this time. Ethan wants to know half PPR Olave, Sutton, or Mike Williams. So, again, Mike Williams, there's not a glowing report on his health. It was probably faster than he's supposed to come back. So, my guess is he's not 100%. He has upside because if he just runs downfield routes and they throw it, he could catch a couple of them. He could have a big game. Sutton is going to get targets here. And as I said a few times, people rightfully have the Sutton question. Nate Hobbs is out. It makes it a much easier matchup. And we know Russell Wilson wants to throw it to him. So this is one of the better matchups for Sutton. Olave, I am just concerned, and I don't know what a coach is going to do, but if I'm facing New Orleans, I am saying, all right, Jalen Ramsey, they got one receiver we're going to worry about, so we're going to just put you there today. We're going to say, you know what, take him, put him out of the game, and our run defense will take care of Kamara, and we're fine. So I'm worried about that. So I'm going to say Sutton here, but if you want to go boom bust, Mike Williams is your boom bust because he could do very little, but he could also get 100 yards and 2 touchdowns because of his role in the offense. But Sutton, I think, is safer for the floor, and that's why I would lean that way. Olave or Tony, just my explanation I gave about Olave, I'm going to say Tony here because Kansas City's down receivers. They're going to have to use him. He's already shown some rapport to get the ball in position to go after the catch. So I'm going to go with Tony there. Brian Pope, Superflex, Pickett, Swift, or Jamal Williams. Swift, and the coach said this week he's working through something. And so his touches were like 10, 5, and 7 the last 3 weeks. Can't take, even though Pickett's a bad quarterback, can't do that. Jamal Williams, we can, though. Jamal Williams can get work. The Giants matchup, how scary is it? I don't think it's anything we worry about. I mean, they're like a bottom half run defense, and Jamal Williams is really, solid. But Pickett's a quarterback, right? So even if he throws for 170 yards, I know he has like 2 touchdowns and 8 interceptions, so there's that, right? But I'd be inclined to start Williams, but you got a quarterback, so it's tough to sit a quarterback, right? In Cincinnati, I know they're out Chidobe Awuzie, but it's still not an easy defense. Jamal Williams is safer. Pickett has a low floor, but he's a quarterback. So if you want the upside play, I think he's a better upside play than Williams, but Williams is probably safer to get you 12 points. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Pittman or Olave. I'm going to go Pittman there. You just heard me explain about Olave, so we're good there. And but Pittman's he always gets like 9 or so targets in most games at Matt Ryan. And I know the Philly corners are excellent, but Pittman catches a lot of in-breakers, things near the line of scrimmage. And those are ones that can kind of override the cornerback matchup. So I'm kind of good with that. Zabby, half point, PPR, sit one, Pittman, Tony, or Ayuk. Ooh, man, it's a tough one. Ayuk's been like 80 yards in 3 straight games. And I think Byron Murphy, the top corner for Arizona, is out, and they're playing in Mexico City. So it should be a game that goes quick pace when the defense kind of wears down. It's hard to sit Ayuk right now. And Pittman and Tony, it's this. Pittman, I think, is a floor play. At half point PPR, he's probably going to get you, 8 or so points. But Tony, I think, has a more upside than Pittman because with Juju out, with Valdes, and with Nico Harbin on the IR, then I think that we're saying Tony is a reasonable floor, but a high ceiling guy. I'm probably going to sit Pittman here. I'm going to sit Pittman. I got to sit Pittman here. King D-Love, answer U.S. 2 to start. Everett, Dulcich, Njoku. Everett got downgraded on the injury report, and that worries me. So that means he had a setback. Because of that, I'm sitting him. I'm going to sit him because of that. Ethan, Foreman, Pacheco, Robinson, pick 2. Robinson has such an easy matchup against Houston. I have to go with him because the Washington team will run the ball on them, and they will make him a part of that focal point. The next one's tougher. Foreman is very, very good, but he has a bad matchup against Baltimore. I expect Baltimore now. Their run defense, you can't look at their season-long numbers because they got Roquan Smith. Now that changes their equation. I imagine they're going to load the box and say, Baker Mayfield, you can't beat us. That's what my guess is. And whereas Pacheco, we never know what his workload's going to be, but man, you can run on the Chargers. So I'm going to sit Foreman. As much as I love Foreman, I'm going to sit him here for that reason. And then Brian Robinson or Swift. I got to go with Robinson. I talked a minute ago that Swift's workload is down to 31% last week. His touches are like 10, 5, and 7. Robinson's getting work against one of the easiest matchups. Now, here's what I'll tell you. If Swift gets 7 touches, he can get 100 yards and a touchdown. He's that talented, right? So, but his floor is literally like 2 fantasy points. Brian Robinson is going to get you at least 8 and probably get you double digits. Robinson is way safer if you have to swing for the fence, but Robinson could hit it too against Houston because they're that bad. So even with the ceiling, I'm going to say the floor that Robinson has is better than the chance of Swift hitting a ceiling game. That's what I would say. All right, see what else we got here. All right, who's a better pickup on waivers, Velta, Scantling, Van Jefferson, or Gallup? So I would probably say Gallup. He's still rounding into form from the injury from last year. I think he can get better. Van Jefferson may be good today because the top passers for the Saints are out. But the whole problem is Jefferson's a deep threat, and the Rams can't protect. So those two don't wash. And then MVS, when he plays, he's like a Green Bay, right? You get to 0, you get to 10. Now, he's had more non-0 games than he had in Green Bay. But Gallup, I think, is going to get a little better as the season goes on, so I'd recommend him. All right, let's see. Steve, point per completion league, Daniel Jones or Matt Stafford. I do think Stafford's in a good spot this week. I mentioned this a second ago. New Orleans is down their top 2 pass rushers. Marcus Davenport and Cam Jordan are out. Pete Werner, their weak side linebackers out. Marshawn Lattimore's out. I think they can move it through the air a little bit today. And Daniel Jones, they're playing Detroit. I imagine there's going to be a lot of running here. So with the completions, I think Stafford actually has a decent game. Santini, Robinson, or Melvin. I'm going to say Brian Robinson easily. The matchup is so easy. And Melvin Gordon is just splitting work, and he's 3 yards a carry, and he's just really not doing anything right now. So that's the way I'm going to go here. Let's see here. All right, next one. Howdy to you as well. Amari Cooper or Rondale Moore. Oh, man. Now that this game is in Detroit for Buffalo and Cleveland instead of the snow in Buffalo, Amari Cooper only got 3 targets last week. It happened a couple times this year, but they usually come back and they get him the ball. Amari Cooper has just been great. Now, Rondale Moore is a great floor. It's like 8 to 10 targets a week. Now, they are playing San Francisco, but I think it's still that part of the field is going to be open. Rondale Moore has a better floor because he's going to get you 7 catches, right? Amari Cooper has volatility, right? So if you want the safe high floor play, it's Moore. But if you want a chance to get 120 yards and a touchdown or 2, you're going to risk floor for ceiling for Cooper. So that's the boom bust call here. I would tend to go with Cooper. Now, Rondale Moore had that 1-2 target game. The first game Hopkins came back. Otherwise, it's been 8 to 10. So I think that regardless, though, it's depending what you want, the floor or a little bit of risk. But I think Cooper has a good chance of having that solid game. All right, let's see what we got here. We've got Monzi. Start or sit both. Amari Cooper now playing in a dome. Paris Campbell as primary defender being the worst rated running quarterback league. Yeah, Paris Campbell's Avonte Maddox is out. He was a slot corner, so he has an easy matchup, but he's going to get his 9 to 12 targets. So I like Cooper. I like Paris Campbell. Campbell scored in 2 straight games too. There's that. And there's a good chance it happens again. If you could play them both, I would. Paris Campbell's a safer floor right now because Cooper does have a few games where he doesn't get targets. And if that pass rush gets home, that could be it. But I think Cooper is in line in a high-scoring game to do well. Start them both if you can. But otherwise, Campbell for floor, Cooper for boom bust. Brian, thank you, Matt. Appreciate that. Nice comment. And anybody out there, if you're on YouTube, if you could hit the like and subscribe button, would appreciate it greatly. It would mean a lot. If anybody wants 2 days free behind the RotoWire paywall, you can go to rotowire.com/right. You don't even need a credit card, just email address. No scams, no scams, no gimmicks, nothing like that. So love to have you over on the RotoWire side. All right, midway, Pittman or Olave. Again, I'm going to go with Pittman here. I just have a concern that Olave is going to get defended by Jalen Ramsey. I'm worried about that. Whereas Pittman's going to have volume. He's going to get a tough cornerback matchup, but he's going to get the ball. And then next question, I can only roster 3 running backs. Should I cut Fournette and pick up Rachaad White? Between those two, yeah, I think Rachaad White, it comes from their beat writers that White's taken over the lead there. So if that's the choices, then yes, then you do. All right, next question. Patrick Mahomes or Justin? Oh man, that's a tough one. Wow. We're right. We're down to that. It's true. You know what? Here's the thing. Mahomes, the odds of Mahomes having a bad game are near 0. Justin Fields has been on a bender, but is there a bad game out there? More likely than Mahomes. Because of that, we start Mahomes. Because Mahomes has such an amazing high floor. We make him the starter, knowing Justin Fields will get you 35 points. But this could be a game where the Bears run the ball and Atlanta runs the ball. They might not need the quarterbacks as much. But I'm still going Mahomes because I know that implosion game is very unlikely to be there. Iron Eddie, that's a great question. Iron Eddie, half PPR, Robinson, Jacoby Myers, Tony, and Pacheco. Well, with the matchup, we love with Robinson, but you got really good options. Jacoby Myers, like 6 for 60 and a touchdown the last time against the Jets, and it wasn't a fluke. The slot's where you attack them. So it's a perfect matchup. And Tony, he's going to see more work because Nicole Hardman's out and IR and Juju's out, and it's a favorable matchup. They're going to probably be throwing the ball a lot. Pacheco, I think, doesn't have the upside of Tony. So that's why I would leave him out. Robinson, I go back to Robinson because against Houston, even he could get 25 carries, 120 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Robinson has upside. And I don't know how much floor there is, bad a floor, because Houston can't stop anybody on the ground. So I would say Robinson is the highest floor of all these guys. But Tony could have a big game. Robinson's safe with a good floor, a decent ceiling. Tony could have a big game. That would be the only thing I would say. There's more risk with Tony. Robinson should have a baseline game here. Brian, PPR, Sutton, Boyd, or Tony. Now, here I got to go with Sutton. Again, all 3 of these guys could go off. But with the second and third receivers out for Denver and Las Vegas being without Nate Hobbs, this seems to me like Sutton gets his 10 targets and he gets it done. Floor game is high floor, chance to score. Boyd, we can get to 2 for 20. We can get 6 for 155 and 2 touchdowns. We know the drill. But it's more likely he goes on the low end of that. Tony, I don't think he gets the targets Sutton gets. And Sutton gets downfield targets a lot too. So I could make the case for Tony, but Sutton, I think, is going to get a lot of work here. All right, let's see what else I got. I got scroll up on Insta, see what else I got sitting here. All right. Debo, Keenan Allen, Montgomery. Because I haven't heard glowing reports on Keenan Allen's health, I don't know where he's at. Montgomery has a beautiful matchup, and with no Khalil Herbert, I'm going with him. Debo has not been great this year. So there's that. Now, Arizona is down their top corner, Byron Murphy. So that's a big deal. Because of the uncertainty of Keenan Allen's health, not knowing if he's going to be subject to getting hurt again, I'm going to take, since you have 2 other good options, I'm going with them. Scott, good to see you, man. DJ Moore outlook. I'm worried. Here's why. Remember, Baker Mayfield. Who's he playing? Oh, the Baltimore Ravens. They played him twice a year for how many years in Cleveland? They know every tendency he has. So they're going to make him uncomfortable, and they're going to be able to do that. They have the personnel to do that. And so I am very worried about DJ Moore. And also, the cornerbacks in Baltimore, they match up favorably with DJ Moore. And so I am very concerned about – I love betting the under on the Panthers team total here. Roquan, you think, the Panthers can run a lot, but now Roquan Smith, that changes their run defense a bit. Brian, good to see you, man. I appreciate you, man. Dak or Herbert? Thank you, man. Yep, hit the like button. Thank you, Brian. I do like Dak here. I have Dak as a DFS play this week, and Minnesota is very hard to run against, but they're very favorable to pass against. Cam Dancer, their corners out, Delvin Tomlinson, their pass rushers out, and let's see if that's a late game. That one, but Zadarius Smith is actually a game time call. We don't know how that's going to work. So nonetheless, I do like Dak here. Herbert's always a good play. We don't know how healthy his receivers are, and that's the question. They're still less than 100%. And so right now, I think Dak has a great matchup here. All right, let's see if there's any inactives here we need to know about. Evan Neal, the tackle for the Giants out. I kind of knew that was coming. The Rams, nothing impressive. The Panthers get back. J.C. Horn's going to play, and they get back Jeremy Chin, their free safety. And we already know that Josh Reynolds is out. Not seeing anything crazy here. We knew Jelani Woods was out for the Colts. We knew Corey Davis was out. All right, I don't see any crazy inactives. A lot of injuries. Khair Elam for the Bills are all kinds of beat up in the passing game. And the Saints, we knew all those injuries are big injuries. David Njoku is active. I am a little worried about his ankle. The Eagles activating Ndamukong Suh to help stop their running game woes. That's interesting. Mark Andrews is active. Gus Edwards, as we said earlier, is inactive. Kenyon Drake gets a volume-based role. A.J. Terrell for the Falcons is active. Mooney runs a slot now, so I don't know how much that really impacts him. So those are the injuries that I see right now. All right, let's get back to the questions here. But those are the inactives that we saw here. All right, next question. Olave, Mooney, or Donovan Peoples-Jones. So my issue with Olave is that if the Rams choose to put Jalen Ramsey on him, I don't think that's a good matchup for Olave at all. Mooney is going to get targets. That was only 4 last week, but he did it. I like Mooney's a DFS play. But Donovan Peoples-Jones is the best floor of all of them. It's been 70-plus yards in 5 of 6 games. The game he didn't, he had 50. He has the best floor. That said, with Olave, I think Olave is your boom-bust guy. Because if Ramsey isn't on him full-time, we could see a big game. We also could see a very, very low production game. So, as much as I like Mooney, Donovan Peoples-Jones is your great floor play, and Olave is your boom-bust option. And then, Brian, you want to know Superflex, Goff or Pollard? Man, I don't like Goff in the cold weather in New York, but there's going to be points in this game. And they're going to have to – and the Giants get like bottom 10 pressure, so it's not like Goff's going to be under siege. Pollard's going to split some work with Elliott. Elliott's not supposed to get a full workload here. But Minnesota's like death to run against. I'm going to go with Goff. Minnesota is really hard to run against. All right, see if we have any other Insta questions here. Bengals or Steelers defense? I like the Steelers defense. TJ Watt. In the first matchup, TJ Watt spent more time in the Cincinnati backfield than Joe Mixon did. And I think he could be there again. All right. And then King D Love, Njoku or Peoples-Jones. You know what? I'm not convinced that Njoku's 100%. I need to see him first. They said it was a 2 to 5 week injury. I think he's rushing back from the high ankle sprain. Peoples-Jones was still getting it done even when Njoku was playing. So, and they were performing at about the same level, although Peoples-Jones wasn't scoring touchdowns. I think his high floor gives you enough where you're confident sitting in Njoku to make sure his ankle is okay. I don't think he's 100% yet. Jay. PPR slim pickings. Myers, Samuel, DPJ, or Duvernay, and Pitts and Juwan Johnson. Thank you, Jay. Start 3. So Myers in the slot is a great matchup because they 6 for 60 and a touchdown, I think, when they met in week 8. And that middle of the field is open against the Jets. That should remain. Curtis Samuel, I think, will get some running attempts here and some middle field stuff against Houston, and I like him. And Donovan Peoples-Jones, again, that high floor. Duvernay always scares me. He's not a good player. He's had some games with targets where it's worked out, but I don't know how much they have to throw in this game. And I'm going to go with those 3 because I think they get more volume than Duvernay. And then, Juwan Johnson doesn't have a high enough floor. He's at like 32 to 43 yards. They can almost 5 straight games. So he's getting yardage, and he's been on a touchdown binge, but Pitts is still getting more targets. So I don't know that Juwan Johnson, and I know he scored recently. The touchdowns are real. They're not sticky, right? And they are playing the Rams, and there's that. I'm going to go with Pitts here because I like the matchup better, and the target volume has been there. Let me just check some for questions. Oh, I got to zip through some. I got to get you guys going here. All right. Keenan Allen or Goff? Keenan Allen, in my opinion, is not quite 100% yet, and for that reason, I'm going to go with Goff because we don't want Keenan Allen to have an in-game setback and then be like, man, we started him. And then Armani, Allen, Drake, London, or Peoples-Jones. Peoples-Jones is the safest because, again, that I've been talking about that floor. He has 70 yards in 5 or 6 games. 50 yards was his bad game. So that's going to keep being there. Again, Allen, because you have other good options, I need to wait and see that he's healthy enough. And so I'm going to go with Donovan Peoples-Jones for that floor. Rodney, Mitchell, or Algier? I'm going to go with Mitchell. They're playing in Mexico City. It's elevation is super high, way higher than Denver. And when the defense gasses in the second half, and if they have a lead, Mitchell should be able to pour it on there. So I like that. And Kenyon Drake or Garrett Wilson? I think that the Patriots, who saw Garrett Wilson in week 8, I think they're going to game plan slow him down. And so I think that Kenyon Drake is your play there. And I already answered the defense one. And I answered that one already. and Wandale or Palmer. Wandale is not 100%, but Palmer's going to be playing like as the fourth fiddle in the offense now. So I think that Palmer has a higher floor because he should get you 3 or 4 catches. I think Wandale Robinson, though, may have the ability to have a big play here against Detroit. So Wandale Robinson is your boom bust play. Palmer is safer. Tony or Carter, oh, man. I'm going to go with Tony. So I think Tony is going to have a safe enough floor here to match Carter, but I think he's going to have a higher ceiling. I think the New England Patriots are going to try to take away some of the screen game with some success. And then Palmer or Peoples-Jones. Peoples-Jones, with Palmer getting teammates back, his floor goes away. So we're going to go with Peoples-Jones there. Samuel or Mike Williams. Mike Williams is your boom bust play because I don't know how his ankle is. He could get 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. He can get 2 catches for 10 yards. Samuel is a safe middling play. So Samuel for safe, Williams for boom bust. Najee or Warren, according to the coach, Najee Harris is getting most of the work today. Kabroom, thanks, man. Appreciate you. Thank you for the nice comment. And Pollard or Damian Pierce. Pollard's matchup is nightmarish, and Zeke is back for some of the work. I'm going to go with Damian Pierce. Palmer or Peoples-Jones. I answered that one. Peoples-Jones. Answered that one already. Please don't spam the questions, guys. And then last question on Insta before I go back to Twitter and YouTube. Van Jefferson or Skoranek? I think Van Jefferson for the one time will get downfield because both of the pass rushers are out for New Orleans. So we're going to go with Van Jefferson because I think this might be the 1 week he gets open downfield. All right, I'm closing up on Insta. Thanks, guys. And I come back to Twitter and YouTube to close out. All right, Rodney, I got you already. All right, hi. Patterson or Foreman? You know what? Patterson's touches, I predicted this last week. He only had 5 touches. It was a Thursday night game. It was a short week game. They're playing Carolina, 4 days off. He's a 30-year-old running back coming off a knee injury. I told everybody he's not getting touches in this game. Nobody wanted to believe me on that. There's a mini bye now. He's going to get double-digit touches today. The Bears are an easy matchup. Foreman, I don't think has a good matchup. I love Foreman. Foreman's a great player. Baltimore has been middling against them, but they added Roquan Smith. I think I like Patterson well more here in this one. G.R. Reed. 9-1 playoff lock. All right. Where's the question here? Where can I? Oh man, waiver wire. You know what? Since that's a waiver wire question, can you DM me or message me at Twitter at Jim Coventry NFL? That's a longer, detailed question, and I got to zip through these. I'm happy to answer it, but you got 2 days to waiver, so I can answer that. I answered that one already. Ali, Mitchell Hunt, or Kyron Williams. You know, I think Mitchell's your safest play here. Again, the game in Mexico City, I think the defense is going to gas in the second half. I expect the 49ers to have a lead. Mitchell's going to get some work. Derek Carr pay $4 for Goff or Mariota. I don't think either of them are compelling. Any of them are compelling. Any of them can go off. Any of them could be terrible. I don't like Carr's matchup, but Goff is outside in New York. Mariota could be in a heavy run game between theirs. They all have upside. They all have downside. It's really a coin flip. Save the $4 and take your chances with Carr unless you have a gut feel on one of the others. Higgins or Jacobs. Jacobs blew up against Denver the last time. I don't know if they're going to feature him again, but they could. Higgins, Higgins is kind of the same deal. Like Pittsburgh, it's a divisional matchup. They know him. They're going to prioritize him. So that's a tough one. Jacobs, I think they both have floor. They both have ceiling. I think it's more likely that the Raiders go back to what worked against Denver last time. Higgins has had too many struggle games recently. It's a coin flip. I'll say Jacobs. If your gut says Higgins, I totally get it. Njoku or Kmet, I don't trust that Njoku's 100% yet, and Kmet has been functioning really well in the office as a secondary read. We go Kmet for that reason. Morning, Rob. Williams or Skoranek. So you never know which either of these guys. Kyron Williams got garbage time touches last week at the end. I have to think they're going to use him this week. He's like one of their only chances to get things rolling here. But Skoranek is going to get a few targets. We don't know if Kyron Williams will or not. Williams, I think, is a boom bust. He might not get snaps. He might get you 12 fantasy points. Skoranek is going to get you probably between 3 and 7 points. So if you want some points for sure, it's Skoranek. If you want a chance to do some damage and risk, that's Kyron Williams. Jacobs and Mixon on the right. Mixon, that number is tough. Pittsburgh's tough against the run. And if they're going to give Mixon 25 attempts, he'll get there. If they give him 15, he's not getting there. And I don't know the route they're going to go on that. My tendency would be to say less on that, but is how their game plan is going to be. Their game plan is going to be, we're just going to run him at all costs. And their running game has been better since they've been running out of shotgun more. I'm still inclined to say it looks like a trap number. That looks like a trap number. Like where everybody bet over on that. It looks like a trap. Josh Jacobs, I would say over on that. He mauled this defense not too long ago, and he'll get enough carries to get to there. Not so silent majority. Tough pick of one of these guys for competitive that matchup. Najee, Nico, Deontay, Sam. Yeah. So Najee's going to get some work. Now, DJ Reader is back for Cincinnati. He's the key to their run defense. He's been out for over a month, and that's going to be tough for him. Collins is a decent matchup as to how much they throw and how many he hauls in. Foreman, the matchup is middling, but with Roquan Smith, I think they're going to stack the box anyway because I don't know they fear Baker Mayfield at all. Curtis Samuel may be the best floor play of this group, and he probably has comparable ceiling, if not more, than the rest of them. I think they'll use him as a runner against Houston. They'll use him a little bit as a receiver, and I think but Foreman's matchup scares me. I guess ultimately Foreman's your boom bust guy because he is really good. And could he get a couple touchdowns? Sure. But I do think there's a bad matchup, and I think it's going to be one of those floor games, whereas Curtis Samuel is safe. He has a much, much higher floor, I believe. Isaac, CPAT, A-Rob, Pittman, London, Eli Mitchell. You need one of them. I explained a couple minutes ago, Patterson, I knew he wouldn't get many touches on a Thursday night game. It was a 4-day rest after their game, and he came back from a knee injury, and he's old. And I think this week he gets his regular workload. I love Robinson this week because I think that they're down to two pass rushers, down a corner, down a linebacker. Saints defense is in trouble. Patterson, I think it has that opportunity to score a couple touchdowns for you. All your options are really good. I think Patterson, though, is in a really good spot here. Pittman has a tough matchup. He's going to get some targets. And then London has just been more flurry. He's had 40 yards since week 3. I do like Mitchell, but it's too dicey counting on garbage time. So I'd say Patterson there. Happy Thanksgiving to you, too. And Bobby, Terrace Marshall, Skoranek. You know what? I am worried about Marshall with Mayfield at quarterback and playing the Ravens. Skoranek, just he plays fullback sometimes for them. I think Van Jefferson has a chance today. Both Marcus Davenport and Cam Jordan are out. Pass rushers, they're missing Marshawn Lattimore. I think he can get something going downfield there. Oh, Gabe Davis, Brian, I don't know if I answered your question now, working it right. Sorry, man. Burrow, 260. Oh, man. Yeah, let's think this one through. I still think this game is low scoring. I think it's a low scoring game. Now, if Tyler Boyd gets that broken coverage and goes 70 yards for a touchdown, it flips the script. I don't see it going over. I think both teams are going to keep this low scoring. It's going to be more of a defensive battle, the divisional battle, second time around. Mo, you're welcome. Mo, it's awesome, man. Thank you. Appreciate it. Josh Palmer, Van Jefferson. Palmer is a higher floor. I will tell you that. He'll get 4 targets for sure. Catch at least 3 of them. Get you at least 30 yards. With Mike Williams and Keenan Allen back, I think that they're going to, probably handle most of the targets. Van Jefferson's your boom bust play. I just explained why a moment ago with all the injuries that are in New Orleans defense. I think he has a chance to have a big game, but Palmer's safer. Van Jefferson's floor is 0. We know that. He has a few zeros. Warren or Ebner. You know what? I'm going to say Ebner. Coaches in Pittsburgh are saying that Najee Harris is the guy this week after he had 99 yards last week. And Ebner is going to get some change of pace. We're getting a great matchup. Atlanta's terrible. So I'm going to go with Ebner there. I love Warren. Warren's playing great. But if the coaching staff says they're going to lean on Najee, that's probably the way they're going. So I'm going to say Ebner for that reason. Brian, Dak or Herbert. I'm going to go with Dak there. It's a great matchup for him. It's a pass funnel defense. Minnesota crushes the run, can't stop the pass, and they have no Cam Dantzler. Herbert has a good floor, but I think Dak, they're going to be pass first. I think Dak has a big game here. Mark, PPR, Keenan Allen or Goff. Ooh, man. I don't think Keenan Allen's 100% yet. They haven't been glowing injury reports on him. He's going to play. I think you take the quarterback over the player that's not quite 100% for that reason. Christopher, bench Sanders, Connor, or Patterson. Sanders is a bad matchup here. Connor had 96% of the snaps this week. They use him in the receiver. Patterson will be back to his usage because that last week was a short week. He was never going to get much usage in that game. I'm sitting Sanders because of the matchup, and the other guys should be just finding their opportunities. King Marcelo, PPR receiver flex, DPJ, Jamal Williams, Josh Palmer, Pickens, Deontay Foreman, Pacheco. So I'm going to go right away with Donovan Peoples-Jones. 50 yards in 6 straight games of for him, all but one of those games, 70-plus yards. That floor has been great. Jamal Williams has a great matchup here against the Giants. Giants are not going to be problematic at all for him. He's going to get the work. All the other players are on Foreman. I always like Foreman, but the matchup, I think, against Baltimore is going to be tough for him. Shane, Algier, Henderson, or Mitchell drop 1. I'm keeping Mitchell for sure. Mitchell's going to have a role in that offense. It's going to be explosive. Sean McVay's always trying to phase Henderson out. He's always trying to phase him out. So I guess if Algier's getting double-digit touches and he doesn't look bad, I'd probably dump Henderson. Ian, Swift or Drake? Got to go Drake. Swift, his coach said this week he's still working through stuff, and 31% of the snaps last week. Look, Swift can get 5 touches, 100 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He also get you 5 touches and 20 yards. And Drake's going to get work here. And they block it up real well on the offense. Like top 10 run defense they're facing. You got and people, Swift or Drake, Peoples-Jones or I'm going to go with Peoples-Jones over Swift for the floor there too. Now that one I'll say if you wanted a boom bust, I got to get you a 2 or a 20, then Swift fits in that, falls in that bucket. But Peoples-Jones going to get you like 10 or so fantasy points. So Peoples-Jones has a solid floor, not a huge ceiling, whereas Swift is your boom bust option. Delroy, Zeke, Carter, or Pierce? Yeah, Pierce numbers been down a bit lately. I really think the Patriots are going to take away Michael Carter a little bit in the passing game. Zeke's apparently not going to see his normal workload. I'm going to go with Pierce on volume. Shane, Pickens, Johnson, Moore. I like Moore. Moore gets 8 to 10 targets in almost every game, regardless of quarterback. Middle of the field should be open. It's going to be a high-scoring game. I'm going to go with him. Mike, Najee or Nico? Najee safer. They're going to run him now. DJ Reader's back for Cincinnati. Safer in that he gets you in your half PPR, that he gets you 7 points. Nico Collins could get you a 2. I think Nico Collins could get you a 14 this week as well because Washington is a very good matchup. Harris is a safer, solid floor play. Don't know how much ceiling he has. Collins is your boom bust option, so pick the way you want to go from based on that. Henderson, Hunter, Swift. I'm going to go Swift here. Henderson, he keeps getting phased out. McVay doesn't want to use him. And Hunt hasn't been good of him the game before the trade deadline. Swift's boom bust, right? He might get 5 touches, but he could go off on us. Those other guys aren't going off. Swift could. They all have floor, so I'm going to go Swift for that reason. Rodney, Samuel, Mitchell, Tyler, Algier. I think I answered that one. Samuel on that one. Hey, Paul, what's going on, man? Drake or Olave? Drake has a safer floor. I think he's going to get the majority of the work. Olave is a boom bust play. If the Rams game plan right, they're going to side Jalen Ramsey. He's going to go on him and say lock him down. They don't have anybody else to worry about. I can't prove they're going to do that. So that makes him boom bust because if Ramsey isn't on him, he could go off. If Ramsey is on him, we could see 3 catches for 25 yards. Drake's going to have volume in this game. He'll get red zone looks. So Drake is safer, and he has a good ceiling. Olave is a much, much riskier play this week based on how the Rams handle it. T-Mod, Master of Disaster. I had to go with St. Brown. St. Brown is going to have a high floor of targets. Higgins, I love Higgins. We never know what we're getting, and it's a divisional matchup, and you'd imagine that the Steelers are going to do what they can to take him away. I am got to zip through the rest of these questions because of time, but I will get through them. Rest of schedule, Garrett Wilson on that one. Can't trust if Baker Mayfield's going to be back in at all, on and off. Got to go with Garrett Wilson. Chad, need 3. Allen, Palmer, Tony, Pittman, Johnson. Tony's our play. Pittman's going to get targets. And you know what? Even though Keenan Allen's not 100%, I think as a third player there, I think he gets enough base on him. You go with those 3. Mark, Lamar Jackson. Jackson's has not had any ceiling since week 3. Fields has had nothing but ceiling in the last 4 weeks. I'm going to go with Fields there. Delroy, Njoku, or Peoples-Jones. Peoples-Jones there is safer. I don't trust that Njoku's 100%. Odell or Dez. I guess we'll say Odell.
Deontay or Rondale Moore is getting 8 to 10 targets most games, and even if Colt McCoy's in the game's played at Elevation in Mexico City, I think it's going to be more of a track meet in the second half. G Money, haven't seen you in a while. Glad you're here. Landry, MVS, or Slayton. I like Slayton here. Slayton's getting targets lately. He's getting yards lately. MVS is just so boom bust, but Slayton's had a floor. Landry, I just don't know what he's got at this point coming back from the injury. Hurts or Fields? You know what? I don't know that Hurts's floor is lower than Fields. Fields has the higher ceiling. Hurts has not been the explosive runner that he's been recently. I'm going to go with Fields there. I have Fields as a top 3 quarterback rest of schedule. All right, Sutton or Myers. Myers at 6 for 60 and a touchdown unless against the Jets. They're going to keep using him in the slot. I think Sutton gets 10 plus targets in this game. You can't go wrong with either. I think they both have good opportunities. Myers is a safer play because he's done it week after week. Sutton hasn't. I like Sutton, but I'd start Myers because that floor has been there. Davis or Tony? I got to go with Davis here. The game's indoors now, and it's going to be a fast track. I think that's going to be very helpful to the offense. Love Tony. Love them both. If you have a gut feel, go with it. Dak or Hurts? Against Minnesota's a pass funnel defense. They stop the run, but you can pass it on, and they're missing Cam Dantzler. They're without Dalvin Tomlinson, who rushes. Za'Darius Smith's a game-time decision. I'm going to go with Dak there. Brian, Goff, Pollard. I think I answered that one already. I think with Jamal Williams has a high floor. Maybe I didn't answer that one, Brian. Let me see. Goff's outside, and that worries me. I think a quarterback always has a high floor. Pollard has a bad matchup. Williams has a good matchup, but how much does he put up? He has 2 touchdown upside. Williams is probably the best blend of floor and ceiling. Tony, you can make a case for it because he could get a lot of targets here. That's a tough one. I'm going to probably say Williams is the safest, and he always has 2 touchdown upside. I'm probably going to go that route, but Tony's tempting because he could make big plays. We haven't seen the full volume of him yet. Pittman or Slayton? Pittman has a higher floor. He'll get like 9 targets. Slayton, they may not pass a lot. It's possible they don't pass a ton. They could run against New York. So I'm going to say Pittman here for safety. And I think they have similar ceilings. All right, next question. Wide receiver, PPR, Pittman, Allen Robinson, Josh Palmer. My expectation could be wrong. I think Allen Robinson will be much more involved with Cuppa, who he moved in the slot more. They're missing a corner in New Orleans, and they're missing their top 2 passers. I think he's in a good spot. I put Robinson right behind Pittman here. Palmer's a distant third because we have Williams and Keenan Allen back. I am worried about Njoku coming back today. I am. But if you have no other option, you start him, okay? But I think he come back early from an ankle injury. I don't know if he's 100%. I don't think he is. But I think if you have no other option, you start him. I think you got a good chance of getting 40 yards, and you hope the ankle is better than we expect. You get 70. But I am worried. I'm worried. Thank you, Jay. Thanks for hitting the like button out there. Those on YouTube. Timothy, Andrews, Davis, Olave. All right, so I'm going to start Andrews because he's in the lineup, and I assume he's healthy. Davis, I think, is a solid play this week. They're playing in a dome in Detroit because they get snowed out in Buffalo. And I worry a little bit about Olave. If you've been on this listening for a while, I'm worried they're going to put Jalen Ramsey on him because there's nobody else to worry about. And if they do, that's a problem. So I'm going to go with Andrews and Davis for that reason. Chad, you need 3. I think I answered this one. I think I answered this one already, didn't I? Allen Palmer, Tony Pittman. Maybe I didn't. All right. I would go with Keenan Allen, Kadarius Toney, and Michael Pittman. I would go with those 3 and call it a day. Mooney or Drake. I love Mooney, but I don't know how many targets. The Bears could run. Atlanta could run. The game could be shortened. Drake's going to have the lead role in the backfield. They block it up well. It's a tough matchup, but not an overwhelming matchup. And I think they both have similar upside. I'm going to go with Drake because I think the floor is higher. Sanders, Connor, Pacheco, Patterson. Patterson's going to get work this week. He didn't 2 weeks ago. It was a short week. I knew you'd never get work in that Thursday night game, not in a short week. I'm going to go with him and Connor. I don't like Sanders' matchup. And Pacheco, he doesn't get targets. Western Goods, Pickens, Pittman, Garrett, Wilson, Peoples-Jones, Harris. Don't trust Pickens' quarterback, and the matchup could be relatively tough. I think Garrett Wilson gets taken out a little bit by Bill Belichick's scheme. So I'm going to leave me with Pittman, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Najee, who's supposed to see more work this week after a good game. Trash game. Curtis Samuel out, play Garrett Wilson, put Montgomery. I want Montgomery in. You want Montgomery in, but I do think Curtis Samuel is good. They're playing Houston. I think he'll get some running attempts this week. You can gash them, and I think he's okay in the pass game. Wilson's had 2 great games. I have to think Bill Belichick says, you know what? We don't want him beating us. That's what I think. I think they're going to make it a point to slow Garrett Wilson, and they're going to force Zach Wilson to second reaction passes and make him uncomfortable. If you have a feeling on Garrett Wilson, go with it. Because I understand he's a much better player than Curtis Samuel, but I would personally go with Samuel and Montgomery. Thank you, Delroy. Yeah, please hit the like button. I like Connor over Pacheco. Connor's been used as a receiver. They had 96% of the snaps last week. He hasn't been efficient, but he's been productive. You're welcome, Dr. Roberto. You have a great week too, man. Thanks. Christopher, you're welcome. Shane, you're welcome. TMOD, you're welcome. Man, you guys are great. Paul, you're welcome. Appreciate it. MSA, you're welcome. You guys are awesome, man. Oh, man, Dan, you have a great day as well. And then my last question today, Joke, I'm going to go Dulcich. I don't think Njoku's 100% yet. I think he came back early. Dulcich, they're down Jerry Jeudy, and they're down KJ Hamler, so I think he gets more targets this week, so I'm going to trust that. All right, everybody, have a great day.